All right, we are live 18 minutes after the hour. It's Allegra, the marketing medulla, and I'm here with the topic, how to quit your 9 to 5 mentality. I love doing this room. We did this room several times, several series ago, and I love doing it because it gives you a new perspective on what you need to do inside of your 9 to 5 space to be very equipped, to be very ready to get into your business, and also being, in a space of coaching people, entrepreneurs, and their business planning process. I've noticed that, we need a space to transition, right? Whether it's you feeling like, I really have an idea and I want to blow this up with a business. I've been doing this for a really long time and I really want to streamline this into a business, whatever that looks like for you. There has to be some level of understanding of what that looks like before you even get into the business space. And so how to X your 9 to 5 mentality really does allow you to start thinking about these things in advance. What does it look like even when you're in a 9 to 5 space before you leave it? Also, if you are not in a 9 to 5 space and you're full time, like some people that I've met recently in the past week, that they started their business and they were pretty much bootstrapping, right? Paying for their business so that, they pretty much are almost out of their savings. Okay. And I want to touch on just making sure that you are getting into a mindset of business before you're there, because the 9 to 5 mentality is really something that encapsulates you into a space where you feel like you are stuck. All right. I want to start this on Clubhouse too. Let's do a room on Clubhouse and let's start having this conversation in here as well. And because I'm live on 3 different platforms right now, I'm going to get on 4 just to maximize the exposure and give people more opportunities to hear from us, and also to learn what we're talking about when we are talking about how to leave your 9 to 5 mentality. If you are here, I want you to drop something in the chat. Let me know you're here, you're listening. Even if it's on the replay, it gives me opportunity to see what it is that I can do to support you. Been trying to catch the live on LinkedIn, into healthcare professionals. Okay, perfect. Healthcare professionals, wonderful. And let me know if you're a 9 to 5 worker, if you are in a 9 to 5 space, if you're career driven. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you have to say today. If you are full-time in business, I want to hear from you as well, because I think that we have to have a conversation around what it looks like for each of us. Some of us are still transitioning. So I'll tell a little bit of my story, and then I'll share with you all some of the things I have for today, because you are not equivalent to your job. You are not equivalent to your position and what it says about you. You are actually above it. And so sometimes we get caught up in a 9 to 5 perspective where, we get in a position and we start qualifying ourselves and we say, okay, we fit that position, we can do that work. But that's not all of who you are, right? The position you're in is just what you're doing at the time. And so I want to kind of lay some ground rules there, lay some foundation there. Full-time in the business arena. Awesome. And when you are leaving and I'm going on Clubhouse too, so I'm trying to get this room up. And for those of you who don't know anything about Clubhouse, we do these rooms on Clubhouse that are audio, and they're so amazing because they reach people worldwide. And so I just want to make sure that we have the space for everyone to hear us and get to understand what to do when it comes down to leaving a 9 to 5 mentality. So what does a 9 to 5 mentality actually look like, right? One of the things that I notice is that when we're in a 9 to 5 space, we're told what to do. Okay. So we're always told exactly what we need to do, what time to clock in, clock out, what we need to do between those hours, right? And how to do it. So if you don't have someone over you, giving you instruction, guiding you, giving you discipline of some kind, then you're pretty much not going to do that type of work, right? Most times when we're not at work in our 9 to 5s, if we have a day off, we're usually just kind of relaxing or watching Netflix all day or social media or whatever it is that our habits tell us to do. But one thing that business is going to teach you, if this is your choice, is that you have to manage yourself. Okay, that is one of the prime functions of being a business owner, because in order for you to manage other people, you have to manage yourself first. And so having the 9 to 5 mentality of someone has to tell me what to do has to go out of the window when you start to freelance, even, right? If you're an independent contractor, you still have to do the same thing. You have to have a more CEO type mentality. It's because you have to manage yourself. So that's number one, is just kind of throw that idea out the window. that people are going to tell you what to do, how to do it, right? Nobody's going to tell you what to do. They're definitely not going to tell you how to do it. And this goes along with everything from mentors and coaches and consultants and people that, you know, we do depend on to give us the information, but they're not necessarily giving you information to say, you know, well, if you do exactly this, you're going to get these results. I kind of shy away from that. If someone is saying, if you follow A, B, and C, you're going to get exactly D, E, and F, because we're all different. Every business is different. Every person is different. So I can't guarantee that just because I did those 3 steps, that just because it made me 6 figures, it's going to make you 6 figures. That's not always the case. Now, you can model it and you can make it yours and you can include it in your process so that it works for you. But there's no way I can guarantee you that you follow every step I tell you and you're going to make that. So we got to be realistic about that. You know, having people give us instruction, because when we're in a 9-to-5 mentality, we are there for people to give us instruction. And so when we go into a different space, right? Can only be scheduled 30. Oh, there must be a room going on in there. Okay, I'll schedule it in another space. Oh, wait, it's already scheduled. The room was already scheduled, y'all. So I'm here on the live as well, but the room was already scheduled. So I'll continue the conversation. But, you know, when we're talking about this and we're saying that someone is teaching us in our work environments how to do our job every day, what time to clock in, what time to clock out. One of the things that I remember doing when I started in my first business was that I was like, whew, nobody to tell me what to do anymore. Oh, my God. That was big for me. I was like, wait. And I think the first week that I left my 9-to-5 job, and this was funny because this was my first venture into full-time business ownership, and I wanted to, you know, just really like go hard, right? I was like, yeah, I'm going hard in my business. I want to make sure I do all these things that I've been waiting to do. But for the first week, y'all, I slept. Like for the first week of me running my business, I got out of my 9-to-5 and I slept. And I remember that feeling of, wait, if I don't get up and if I don't start doing work in my business, then nobody is going to make money for me. Like I'm not collecting a paycheck at the end of the week anymore. I'm not, you know, going to someone's job anymore. So if I don't get up and if I don't do what I need to do, then I'm probably not going to make any money. And so that really dawned on me after that. And so this 9-to-5 mentality, what it did was it put me in this idea phase of, okay, well, I can just, you know, kind of wait for the paycheck to come. So not only was it tell me what to do so I can get the money, but it was also let me wait for the money to come. How many people relate to me with that? Hey, Rahana, welcome to the stage. Welcome to the room. I'm here on 3 live channels as well, and I'm just talking to the audience about this conversation. So if you want to join in, you can all join in. Tell me in the comments what your take on it is, because if you do, and there's no, and this is what I want to debunk. Pinky Cole did this interview with Kelly Clarkson this past weekend, and I know that people talked about in the pandemic how they didn't want to go back to their jobs, and you know, it was like, oh, if I go back to my job, I'm a failure and I didn't do it right. No, that is actually sometimes the best thing you can do. Because being able to really structure a business and really make it work in the most effective way means that you're able to take something that may not have worked well the first time and say, you know, let me go back to the drawing board. And when you go back to the drawing board, that means that you're able to figure it out again. Your employer does it every single day. We all do it. But when you're in a 9-to-5 mentality, you're not really on that thinking process, right? You're just thinking, okay, well, I'm going and I'm doing this one job. But like I said, you're not equivalent to your position. You're above it. So even though we go into a 9-to-5, the mentality that we have usually around that is stuck in the positioning. And I want to think beyond that. Okay. Hey, Nazil, welcome to the room. I want to think beyond that, because sometimes we're really masterful at working for people, giving them the skill sets that we have, making sure that they have all of this opportunity to use us in the best way, shape, and form. And I love it because as a business owner myself that needs staff members, I get the best of the best. I look for people who are going to make sure that my dreams come true, right? They're going to make sure that I have spaces where, you know, they're in that they utilize their skill and someone says, oh, who do you work for? And they go, oh, I work for AJ CEO Business Coaching Group. And they go, oh, let me check that employer out, right? Let me check that business out. Do you know on LinkedIn, since we're airing here on LinkedIn as well, do you know that my conversion rate on LinkedIn is so freaking high because of the fact that I hire here on LinkedIn? I actually do a lot of employee ads here on LinkedIn. This is the main source of where I attract what I call the best of the best, because I get to really see how active they are in their business world, not just from Monster or Indeed, right? Welcome, Kim. Welcome, Manala. But we're talking here about some real serious stuff, because your 9-to-5 mentality means that we're brought from a world of just thinking off of someone else's dime, right? Someone tells you to do a job, someone tells you how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, all these things. And we've also kind of been conditioned to, in a way where we where we say that we'll do more than what we need to and still get paid the same. And so that goes down to what I was going to go to next, right? Because you're not equivalent to your position, you're above it. So even though you're, you know, sometimes paid to do something in your 9-to-5 job, your mentality may not be stuck in, oh, well, because you're paying me, I'm going to, you know, kind of be stuck here. You know, some of the things that I've learned, and I'll give you an example, because the last time we were in this space, and feel free to ask questions in the chat, y'all, or feel free to come up to the stage if you like. But it really dawned on me that when I was in a 9-to-5 space, I was really wanting to please my employer to get positioning, right? Like I wanted to work really hard. It was like the big thing for me. If I work really hard, they're going to give me the raise. If I work really hard, they're going to see me. You know, and that's not always the case. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. But, you know, I realized that was kind of being stuck in this rat race. You know, if you read Robert Kiyosaki's book and you talk about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you'll see where he describes this, you know, that 9-to-5 mentality, that's that rat race, that old school thinking and old school world, how we used to live, how we used to make money. Now we live in a world where digitally you can get behind a phone and you can create a whole business and nobody will know if that business is real or not, and you can still make money. It's just very real. So, you know, the 9-to-5 mentality is really a struggle for some of us, because if we are still kind of coming out of that old world of, you know, work really hard, work until retirement, you know, and then kind of relax, and that doesn't exist anymore. 401ks are like, listen, they have flown out of so many windows. People have been promised to, you know, the star, the moon, and the sky, right? About, oh, well, you know, you work this long and you'll get these perks. But what I want to start thinking more about is, how are you taking care of yourself outside of the 9-to-5 space, so that you're not just depending on that to be your substantial, like, means of living after you're 50, after you're 60, right? And exiting that 9-to-5 mentality means that, and when I say you're not equivalent to your position, you're above it. Well, say you are just, you know, a marketing assistant, which I was in one of my jobs. And I remember I was like, okay, well, I'm doing this job now, but what happens after I leave here? I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to work here for 40 years and y'all going to pay me. No, because when I looked at what the positioning was, there wasn't really a lot of real room for growth. Every time I went to my vice president's office, I was like, hey, I need a raise because I'm doing all the work. And I see that the administrative position is available and you keep putting me up there to sub for her. So every time I go up there to sub for her, that means that you can save money on hiring someone to do that job. So that means I'm helping you save money. Also, you know, you gave me this extra work that I had to do last week, and that now is compiled onto the work that I already had, which is outside of my scheme of work that I was already designated to do, which means that I don't do accounting. But since now you have me doing expense reports, which is part of accounting, then maybe I need to get a raise. Maybe I need to get paid more, right? And a lot of us go through this, right? Especially as women, because as women in business, we do have a tendency to not ask for things. So I had to practice that in a 9-to-5 space. It wasn't something that came naturally. It didn't come easily. It wasn't that I just woke up one day and said, hey, I'm just going to ask for money. No, it took me to get into a space of confidence and saying, well, if I'm doing this and they're saving this much money, then I'm actually of value. I'm of value to them, big time value. And so when you get to that space of understanding that part, that's why I say do things that really build you while you're in a 9 to 5 space. So what I did after that, y'all, and this is the crazy part, as I started to look for opportunities that were going to get me to my next level, whether it was education. So I started enrolling into a class. I actually went to the SBA because I was like, well, bump this, because if this job doesn't pan out, what is my next goal? How am I going to get educated, and how am I going to get taught to get to the space where I really want to be? So yes, having a 9 to 5 was great, but the 9 to 5 mentality had to go, right? Having 9 to 5 paid my bills. It paid the water bill, it paid the phone bill, it paid the rent, it paid all those things. But it did not pay enough to keep me stuck in said space, right? Like, it may pay enough to pay the bills for the time, but does it pay enough to keep you there for years and years and years and years? And if you really ask yourself that question, most of the time people will kind of, lay down things that make sense to them. Well, yeah, I love my job and I love how they treat me, and they do respect me, and they give me positioning, and great. If that is essentially what you want in your life, then great. But there are some people out there, and this is who I'm talking to, individuals who want so much more. There are individuals who are saying that I am stuck in a 9 to 5 mentality and I don't know how to get past this way of thinking, but I want to get to the business. I want to get to the growth. I want to get to the place where I'm no longer working for someone else. I vowed to myself, y'all, years ago, I said, once I get out of a 9 to 5 space, I'm never going back, right? That was my vow to myself. And I had to work really hard to get in position to never have to do that. But I've been in business for 18 years. 18 years. So when you think about your own growth and mastering yourself, this is what I will encourage you to do. Always look at you. Never look at anyone else. Because when it comes down to Xing your 9 to 5 mentality, it's going to take you realizing what you want, what success looks like to you. And if you don't have an idea of what that is, that's part of the problem. In a 9 to 5 space, I had already had an inclination that I wanted to have a business. I already knew that I had ideas. I already knew that I had skill sets, right? And so there are things right now in your mind, in your environment, that you may feel very empowered by, skill sets, things that you already know to do. Let me share with y'all. My first business was a bartending company. Okay. That was my first business, a bartending company. And I named it one thing. And then I was like, no, I don't like that name. So like a couple years later, I named it something else. Right. But throughout that process, I never just didn't do it or just quit my 9 to 5. No, I kept my 9 to 5. I even got more jobs. I think I was working like 3 jobs at one time. Right. Because in order for me to make sure that I, am sustainable, I want to make sure that I, number one, have money so I can be comfortable. But number two, know how to utilize that money. Okay. And that's the second part I want to leave y'all with too, because mastering you will make everything else follow. Put it like that. When you master who you are, and I'm not talking about, this identity crisis that we're in. A lot of people are delusional, right? We're in an identity crisis because we're saying one thing, but we're doing another. And that's really the truth of the matter. So when you master yourself, that means that you're actually going to put yourself in places and positions that you're learning. Meaning that if you say, hey, I'm really not trying to be in a 9 to 5 too long, you're going to give yourself a deadline, a timeline. You're going to give yourself goals. You're going to put yourself around resources and people who are going to help you meet those goals, right? That's heavy part of planning your life and also planning your business. And that's why I literally start out with that. Because if you are in a place where you feel like, okay, really, I need to master myself, because it's never really anyone else that's the problem. There are people that have started businesses in their garages. They use what they could, right? We have the stories of Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs. We have, all of them. I was just listening to Elon Musk. We talk about these people like they're just magnitudes of a being when they're just like you and I, right? Now, they may have had different upbringing. They may have different background, but at the core of it all, we all have to deal with ourselves. And each and every one of us have to master something that I had problems with, which was being able to be on time and productive. Like, it's one thing to be on time. It's another thing to be early, right? Because I wasn't the type of person to be on time. I missed opportunities because of that. And a lot of times we get in spaces where we're like, okay, well, my job let me do whatever I want. The 9 to 5 mentality at that place was really toxic, because they didn't prepare you for what you really needed in your success. Your level of success may need you to be an hour early, right? Your level of success may mean that you may have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning every single morning to make sure that you reach your clients that you need to reach because of the industry you're in. These are things that when you're coming out of the 9 to 5 environment, the mentality that carries over with you is who you identified with. You identified with the person who was either, hey, I'm the late night person. Like I was listening to someone say, yeah, I only work third shifts because, it's just how I operate. This is who I am. That's fine. But, the thing about it is we pick things based on who we feel we are until we decide who we want to be. And a lot of times we are deciding who we want to be along that journey of building ourselves, right? Because it's like if you've never been outside the country, how do you know you don't like being outside the country? Like when I first went to Cuba, I thought Cuba was different. I had no idea it was that beautiful, and just so like it was just beautiful. And I had no idea. You talk about the Havana culture and things like that, but you have no idea what you're going to experience until you experience it. And so that's kind of how I feel. It's exactly the same when it comes down to your 9 to 5 mentality. We are there when we are in a space and you've never had the business before, you've never done the freelance before. If you have a hobby that you've been doing and people are like, "Ooh, if you charge for that, I'll pay for that," right? There are some things that you can do in a business space, right? We were talking about this earlier where I said there's a difference between a hobby and a business. But there are people that have turned their hobbies into businesses just by doing a business feasibility report and saying, how do I see what this is doing for people and if it actually solves problems for them as well? Because your hobby may be something that you consider a hobby, but it may be solving problems for everyone, right? That you're around. And they're just like, I will buy this from you, right? Like one of the things that I think is also is that some of us don't realize how our gifts are making way for us. There was a gentleman, David, if you ever hear him in any of our win spaces, where's his perfume? He has a perfume that he created from scratch. Okay. And so I decided one day to just, ask him, do a book raffle for a win member. We did. He wanted to send me an extra book for promotion. And then he added one of his perfumes. And so I get the book and I get the perfume, right? And I smell it and I get blown away. I'm like, what in the world is this? I've never experienced this before. And so I'm digging deeper, right? Because most people won't dig deep into your brand. They'll just be like, okay, that's beautiful. Where is it at? And you go, oh, I don't have it available anywhere. And they don't even bother with it anywhere. They just go, oh man, that's amazing, right? But when you have a brand that's so unique and so extremely just impactful, right? A lot of times when we have a 9 to 5 mentality, what we'll do is we'll limit ourselves because we're like, well, okay, well, I'll just keep working on that. I'll just keep working on that. And I'll give you one last example and then we got to kind of close this up. But there's, y'all, there are people that I know right in a moment of their like, oh, Allegra, I just really, really wish somebody would, buy this or buy that or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, how are you making it available for them to buy? And they're like, I don't know. They could reach out to me. They could reach out to you. So there's businesses out there in the world that literally, like, if you see a commercial and you go to their website, you can just click a button and you can buy it, right? Well, what makes you so different that people need to chase you down? What makes you so different that people got to now go through 5 or 6 different channels just to see what your offer really is about? You got to make it easy for people to be able to have access to you. And that's kind of what, we've come across is that lack of intention around making sure that people have that real, true, like, okay, this is a real business. This is somebody that's going to support me and they're not going to disappear on me, right? And that comes from, I'm getting this red bar, y'all. Y'all excuse me if it cut out on me. I'm gonna wait till it comes back. Where's my water? Mm-mm-mm. Okay. I don't know what y'all heard. I don't know what y'all didn't hear. But whatever happened, happened. So my internet is acting real wonky. Okay, give me a heart if you can hear me now. And I'm going to go back on the live and I'm going to finish up here and just try and get back on these channels. But, as I'm speaking, I'm just thinking that this is a layered conversation, y'all. Okay. This is a conversation that can go so many different ways because here's the thing. I had to go back to my 9 to 5 twice while building a business. And people think it's unrealistic. I was listening to Pinky Cole talk about it. And she was talking about how she had to go back when her building caught on fire, right? There's the unexpected. There's a lot of things that happen. But the one thing that did not go back with her and the one thing that didn't go back with me was the 9 to 5 mentality. And I described, some of that and the way that they looked in different ways, right? So listen to the replay if you didn't hear the beginning. Hey, Shay, welcome, and Sharon. But we're talking about, you're not equivalent to your positioning, you're above it, because even in the positions that I was in, y'all, I still went above and beyond and asked questions that I probably shouldn't have, quote unquote, had the right to ask, right? And I wanted to. I remember being in a program and then going outside of my what does she call it, that that was outside of your scope. You weren't supposed to be at that benefit concert, right? But I was invited because there was just some bold moves that I wanted to make behind the scenes. Hey, Ernice, welcome to the room. There were some bold moves that I had to make behind the scenes that for me and my career and my objectives, I wanted to be able to take myself to higher heights, to know more about what I was capable of doing in the world, right? And that took a level of intention. Ernice, you're unmuted. I just want to make sure it can hear us. So it came with a level of intention. And I just want to make sure that we're very aware of that because, each and every one of us have an opportunity to really grow in this atmosphere and in using everything to our advantage, right? We live in a world where everything is at your fingertips. I've never seen so many opportunities for us to have access to information and not use it and not implement it and not take action. And I think that's exactly why. I think it's because there's so much information. And when we get to a point of realizing what it is that we need to do, like I said in the beginning, identify what that success measure looks like to you. Like, don't measure your success off of what someone else is doing. And this is a lot of what I see, especially in social media, because everything is glamorized. Okay. We have people that I remember the pandemic hit, and I was like, where did these famous people just come from? Like, we're like, what? But it's social media. It can be glamorized. It can look a certain way. But where is everyone now? You got to look at trends. You got to look at the market. You got to look at your life. Where do you want to be, and how consistent do you want to be in your process of growing and establishing yourself and what you want to do? Now, being in a 9-to-5 space, it does not mean that you have to be stuck in a 9-to-5 mentality. I know people that work their jobs like their own businesses, and they will tell their employers what to do and be like, yeah, I'm not doing it. And I will be, A, B, and C'ing for the rest of D, E, and F, because they understand their position, that their positioning is higher than what their employer deems that position is equivalent to. So even though I may be that marketing assistant, in my eyes, right, I'm not just a marketing assistant. In my eyes, I'm doing a lot more work. I'm taking on a lot more responsibility, and I'm worth more, right? Because nobody can ever pay your worth. So you have to establish yourself and say, well, what is it that I want? If you want to climb that ladder, if you want to be in that space where you're at the highest of heights, and that's what you want, and that's where you want to grow, then sometimes this is what I see, and this is what I want to get out of the mentality of. Sometimes I see people that are stuck in a building at one employer, and they're like, well, they won't let me grow. They won't let me get up there. They won't let me reach the higher heights. Well, you have a choice to make, because it's either you allow them to decide on where your growth is going to be, or you decide it. And so what most people do is they will get the positioning that they need. They will go to the employer that will give them that position. So these are just things to think about. And also, as we wrap up, master you and everything else will fall in line. Everything else will fall in line. I've discovered this throughout, unfortunately, it took me longer than I needed to, but I still had a leg up for most people. I remember getting my first mentor at SBA. Shout out to SBA. And I have to do that because Miss Ernice is on the stage, and mainly because that was always my go-to resource. I was listening to these replays that we had on this same series we did back 2 years ago. And when we did this series, we had so many people come through the rooms, and they had no idea SBA even existed. And I talk about it all the time. I'm like, SBA, go there, go to the score department, get yourself a mentor, and just start there. Because even if you have no clue as to where you want to go, somebody can at least guide you without you having to pay out of pocket, without you having to feel obligated to make a decision on what you need to do. There's just so many ideas. And like I said, we have an information highway. But what are you doing with that information? And so getting the guidance is step number one. And if you're just like, hey, I don't care about the business part, which that's not my area, but I will say this, I have plenty of resources that can help you in your career. Okay. When you master who you are, whether it's your time, where you spend it, who you spend it with, how you manage yourself, your money, how you manage your environment, how you manage your anything, even the things that you think about, because sometimes you got to think about what you're thinking about. When you manage you, everything else will follow. And that's one of the things that I just learned from the greats. I'm studying the greats. I'm learning more from what worked for people and saying, well, how does that model in my life? Because if you're really going to be honest with being able to be the great in your own life, you have to see what other people had to sacrifice to be great for themselves. And so this is just another session of what we talk about in this, this amazing environment. My lives went dead, so you may not be able to watch the end of these replays. So I'm glad that we were able to get in the Clubhouse room, at least for the replay. But if anyone wants to come up, ask questions, or share, feel free to do so at this point. This is your opportunity. And if you feel like, hey, I'm struggling somewhere in a space where I'm really feeling like I am stuck in a 9-to-5 mentality, because that is a real thing, which means that sometimes we're stuck at a certain cap. where we feel like, okay, well, I should be making more money and I should be doing more things with my employer and I should be whatever that is. A lot of these things from the beginning is making sure that you're not just equivalent to the position that you're in because you're above it, and that you're always looking for higher heights and other opportunities, even though you're where you're at, because it's okay. You do what you have to do where you're at, but never stop wanting to shoot for more. Never stop wanting to do more for yourself, because life is more than just a 9 to 5 mentality. Okay. So I want to go ahead and stop there. We will be coming back with this again next week. If you want to catch, which my internet, I think will catch up in a moment. If you want to catch the beginning of this series on a live, because I did the video part, I do the video along with the Clubhouse rooms. And this is just a way for me to expand to the audience that is asking for this. When we did the first series, I only did it here on Clubhouse. And I had people join my programs from that series. Of course, you have to qualify for that. I've had some people join, and just schedule discovery sessions with me. And that way we get to see if where you need to go. And I'll put that link at the top of the room, because sometimes we're in a space where we don't know where we need to go, right? We don't know if we need to start that business right now, if we need to grow that business, or if we need to scale it. And being as though I don't believe that a business is built alone, right? Never. You have to be able to find yourself in places with those resources. I will just do a quick referral too, because not to give away my mentor, but I have a mentor at SBA, Miss Ernice, next to me, and she's always supportive of my space, right? As successful as I have been, as successful as I am, as successful as I will be in the future, I still put myself in position to be around people who can tell me how to get higher, how to do more, how to be better. And here's the thing, you don't know what you don't know. And so a lot of things that increase our level of getting out of this 9 to 5 mentality is being around people who can kind of catch those things and say, hey, that's thinking a little small. Maybe you need to think a little bigger, right? Because when you're in a 9 to 5, someone tells you what to do every day. Someone tells you what kind of work to do. They tell you how to do it, right? So outside of that box, if you're learning something new, you have to force yourself or pressure yourself or push yourself rather to doing something new, and you're used to someone always doing that for you. That's a whole new mentality. That's a whole new mentality to say, you know what? I have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning when no one is telling me or forcing me to do it to get a paycheck. It's different. And so we have to really wrap our minds around what that looks like. All right. If all hearts and minds are clear, we're going to get out of here, and we'll come back here next Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And those of you who are new to some of our win spaces, also shout out to our VIP, Nakia. Hey, I see you in the room. Lotus, welcome to the room. And we will also have other special rooms, like we just did how to moderate and manage a LinkedIn audio room. I did a little bit of a data analysis on that today, and I'm very intrigued to do a couple more test rooms to see how you are thinking about that as well. So we're going to be continuing to have some of these incredible rooms. The reason why I brought this series here is because I'm going to be collecting all of the past series that I've done in the last couple of years. I'm going to put that in a digital download for you all. And I want you all to really take time to listen to all these rooms, because I'm going to tell you, in the rooms that I'm talking about, I'm telling you about it now, but I want you to hear it for yourself, about people who came to stage, asked these questions, wanted to know, well, what is it that I need to do to get out of my job, to get out of this stuckness? And sometimes it's not necessarily jumping into a business. Most times it isn't, okay? A lot of times it's really identifying, why do you feel stuck, okay? And what it is that you need to do to identify what it looks like to get unstuck. And we'll talk about that next week sometime. If not in this room, we'll have more conversations this week as well. All right. Thank you all for joining. I will see you later on around these Clubhouse streets, and also in my other social media spaces, especially on LinkedIn, y'all. Do me a favor, follow us on LinkedIn, because I think we're going to have some people that are going to need to go over there and build their businesses there. I'm just hearing way too many people say, I don't know, do I need to be on LinkedIn? And one of the statistics that we found out, because someone came to stage earlier today and said, you know, my demographic says that these are the people that I serve. And I've been doing some rooms on LinkedIn, and I said, well, LinkedIn shows that the demographics are 60% of LinkedIn users are between the ages of 25 and 34. So if you're looking for statistics to see where you need to be, that's where you start. And then you start to really identify what your message needs to be in those places that your people mostly are. But we'll talk more about that. All right. Have an amazing day, y'all. Bye.